Hey everybody, I'm Steve Green with Bill Whittle and Zoe Rachel, and this is your Right Angle Lightning Round, brought by the members of BillWhittle.com. Okay, in case you don't know how this goes, and I think this is Zoe's first ever lightning round, instead of going deep into one topic, I have secretly selected headline stories, and I'm going to ambush Bill and Zoe with them to get their hottest, freshest takes because, well, they have no choice in the matter. So, Bill, we're going to start with you this week. We're going to take it a little easy on Zoe, kind of breaking me in gently.
Appreciate that.
Bill, this comes from Twitter, where former intel officer Michael Pridgett ran the numbers. He says somewhere between 200 and 9,000 Americans remain in Afghanistan. He says the 200 number is the one preferred by the White House. The 9,000 comes from what the White House said 9 days ago, that somewhere between 10,000 and 15,000 Americans remain, and 6,000 Americans were evacuated, says the White House, meaning their 200 number is BS. Bill, I guess my question is there are so many different angles we could take with this, but the one I'd like to hit is Biden promises this over-the-horizon response to terrorist threats coming from Afghanistan, but they've got thousands of human shields, don't they?
Yeah. First of all, color me surprised that the intelligence community can't decide whether it's 200 or 9,000. You know, if they said, we don't know if it's 220 or 223, I'd say, well, that's reasonable in time of, crisis and fluid situation. But 209,000 is a 40 times more people?
An order and a half of magnitude.
Yeah, something like that. That alone is disturbing. I find it disturbing that we look. I don't expect the government to have a full accounting of where we are at every second of the day. Not yet. I think they're saving that till next year. But nevertheless, you would think that given the time that this crisis has been going on, we would have a pretty good idea in terms of visas and passports and all the rest of it. We would have a pretty good idea of what that number is. You would think that's that's the whole point of visas and passports and all the rest of it. And furthermore, we're not going to get into this whole thing, obviously, but certainly the news that we were leaving has been around for well over a year. Nobody expected it to go this way. I think Donald Trump's plan was to pull the civilians out first and leave the military in there and then pull the military out instead of the other way around. But what do I know about military matters? But my point in all this is the people who are still in Afghanistan should have been warned by any competent Western government, should have been warned weeks, if not months in advance of this is how things are going to go. And you need to start packing your bags now. And the one thing that strikes me among all the other things that strike me is the sense of the Americans who are trapped there and being turned away at the gate, by the way, which is what my Moving Back to America show is. American soldiers are turning them away at the gate of the airport. Go out there and die with the Taliban. You would have thought that this kind of thing would have been something you could have planned for, and the sense I get, Steve, from watching the scenes at the gates is even the Americans hadn't got the faintest idea what's going on. I heard, by the way, I was I did a Newsmax segment, and I was queued up ready to go, and Nigel Farage was on a Newsmax program I was doing with Carl Higg, and he said that when this crisis began, Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister of Great Britain, called the White House and said, can you tell us what's going on? This is an emergency phone call. We have people on the ground. And Farage said that they did not get a reply for 40 hours. 40 hours. Emergency phone call from our closest ally, 40 hours. And he said, next time America's going into something, we're not going with you. And I know Australia feels the same way.
And Australia's been there for every war, Korea, Vietnam, literally everything.
Nope,
they've been
that's
our
gone.
Best ally. You know, Bill, I spent the last couple of weeks trying to figure out the right analogy for closing Bagram first. And I came up with this. One of the biggest military disasters in history was Napoleon, marching into Russia. Was 500,000 men marched in and 50,000 men marched back out. And just huge disaster. But I figured out a way to make it an even bigger disaster. If Napoleon had taken Joe Biden back in the late 1700s, early 1800s, when Biden was still young and spry, and
you beat me to it, damn you,
and put him in charge of the invasion, they'd be 800 miles into Russia. Just a couple hundred miles left to go to get to Moscow. And Biden would give the order that the French army should burn all of their own supply depots.
Yeah, there you go. But burning all of our own supply depots is actually a pretty good idea. The fact that we didn't burn our own supply depots in Kabul is what's going to cause us nightmares for the next century or so.
Yeah. All right. Zoe, let's go to you. And, this is from Issues and Insight. They report that global warming narrative takes another hit. According to the Japan Meteorological Agency, the Antarctica's annual maximum sea ice has grown for 3 straight years. Good job, everybody. We saved the planet. And the annual average is increasing. The annual minimum is getting bigger. And the long-term trend lines for both have been increasing since 1979 on a nice upward path. So should we just call a halt to the war on the economy because we saved the Earth?
Well, are we going to go back to that threat of global cooling again? Is that how this? I mean, because
I forgot how this game is played.
Right, and the thing is, I mean, since the 70s, that's when it was happening. So the Democrats get to say, or the environmentalists, or what have you, they get to say that they were right, man. See, we told you that the world is cooling. You guys didn't believe us. So it's that whole thing of like they'll tell you about how the glaciers are melting and how they're melting on the west side, but they don't tell you how they're being built up or freezing on the east side. This narrative, they cook it all over the place, man. I dig how they, I live in a pretty hot area of California, right? And every summer they go to like the hottest place in California, like the Coachella Valley. And they use that as a model to scare the rest of the world or scare the rest of America or whatever, about how climate change and global warming is taking over the world. The record temperatures of 120 degrees in the Coachella Valley. I was like, dude, it's the desert. It's supposed to be hot here. All right? It gets hot. And they use that as a model, to promote the idea of global warming. And it's the idea where it's like, well, weather patterns and the climate, there's displacement. I can guarantee you that, because like in certain parts of California where the weather has actually been really mild, that's going to shift over to another place that's going to seem to experience more extreme, weather that they haven't gotten in like 40 years or something like that. And then it's going to move back over to where a certain part of California is back to its hot self again. And that other place is going to, cool off or whichever. All that stuff goes, but these people are able to just tap into the sensationalism. Oh man, sensationalism is just one of those things that sell. And I think it's an interesting thing to note though, is climate change and this environmental stuff that we're supposed to be so afraid of, that I guess that's supposed to be the most dangerous thing of our time. That's the biggest threat that's happening to the world today. Yep. That's the most dangerous thing. Well, you know what I noticed? People ain't jumping off of planes to get away from climate change. They ain't jumping off planes to get away from what's going on for the environment. They're jumping off planes to get away from terrorists. That's what's happening. So, but we're taught to believe that, terrorists, they're not a real threat or anything like that, but that climate change and COVID, that's the most dangerous stuff that's threatening the world today.
Yeah. I think they lost the argument, Steve, when they switched from global warming to climate change, because now if it gets cooler, they say it's climate change. It's I mean, really, honestly, that's when they lost the argument, as far as I'm concerned.
The part that gets me is the planet, thank goodness, has been deglaciating for about the last 12,000 years or so. But the last 150 years, that's on us. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
Bill, back over to you. Oh, hey, it's a California story. You're going to love this one. Your governor there,
Probably
Gavin
not.
Newsom, has praised Chinese foreign agent for journalistic integrity. You need the details on this. I can't remember where I got this from, but this is a quote. Earlier this month, Newsom spoke at the annual gala for a pro-Beijing newspaper that is registered as a foreign agent of communist China due to its influence activities in the United States. Newsom lauded Tsingtao, that's the paper, for its journalistic integrity and for providing quote, balanced news stories to its readers. Can we recall this guy fast enough? We got 14 days. What's going to happen?
When people ask me about what it's like to live in California, I say, here in California, we have the entire spectrum of political opinion from far left on one side to extreme left on the other. and this is what it comes down to. I mean, he might as well just provide the receipt at this point, right? I mean, really, pay to the order of Gavin Newsom, $4.5 million, Xi Jinping, just sign it, and just might as well just tack the receipt onto a board someplace. Of course he's praising China. Of course he is. And you know who else is praising China is the president of the United States, who told us that China's not our adversary, and now is telling us that the Taliban's not our adversary either. So look, man, when you exist in a world without moral standards, and when you are essentially incapable of shame, and the whole French Laundry thing for me is certainly evidence of that, and there are hundreds of other cases with him. Everybody's winery closes but mine, that kind of thing. When you have no shame, it's really just a question of who's writing the biggest check. And when you get to the second biggest economy in the world, you can write a pretty big check. And I don't know what else to say about it. That's the only thing that makes sense to me, Steve.
Well, it's the circle of life. I buy a pair of Nike tennis shoes for my kid. The money goes to China, but then the money from China comes back to California to line Gavin Newsom's pockets.
Right.
I don't like this circle.
So that he can send more manufacturing to China.
All
Thank
right.
you, man.
Zoe, last one for you.
All right.
American University. Oh, this one makes me sad. American University now offers separate classrooms, saying it's a safe space for black students. The article goes on to say that AU might be adding affinity groups, not just based on race, but based on other defining characteristics such as gender identity. Maybe I'm quaint, but don't you kind of miss the days when we were looking for reasons to bring everybody together?
Yeah, this, man, who would have thought that segregation would be so fashionable? You know, it's like segregation is the woke thing to do. It's unfortunate that there's so much of a premium put on a safe space. Man, I miss having a sane space, man. These people and what they're doing, it's not lucid. Why these people are calling themselves woke?
The word I've been looking for the last 2 years drops out of heaven onto my lap. It's
word.
Not lucid.
Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you.
I have my moments, right? But the irony that they're calling themselves woke, though, right? This is wokeism. It's like these people are sleepwalkers. They're definitely not definitely a burger short of a Happy Meal, right? And so this right here, this everything that they're supposed to be fighting against is exactly what they're handing themselves over to. This safe space for blacks. I mean, and I get told that I'm this self-loather because I'm like, hey, can we stop, with all these narratives that basically make us look like the biggest sissies on the planet? Can we knock it off at trying to hold the corner on being the biggest victims? Can we knock it off with this self-shackling, these brain chains that we keep putting on ourselves? Can we knock it off with that at some point? All these things that we're doing that are really leading ourselves into some self-hurt. But you say these things and you're the self-loather. It's interesting how that works. It's like, look, man, stop doing these things that hurt you. Stop doing these things that arrest your development. Stop doing these things that keep us at like 13% of the population. Stop doing these things that keep you marching around in a circle saying we shall overcome and there's going to be justice, while y'all are the ones who keep doing yourselves dirty. Why is it that they keep going on? Like I said, you have these people who are like the biggest investors of the things that they claim to hate, like white supremacy. But you're going to let these, and they tell me that I'm always looking for, the white man's approval. But it's you guys who are looking for these elitist white people to approve things for you. And now they've approved segregation for you. Well, congratulations. It seems like the one looking for approval for them is you. And you got it. And now you're going to complain about it and you're going to try to accuse somebody else of racism. Is this when I think of these things as being the institutions of higher learning, I think people are kind of dyslexic about that too. It makes me it makes me not regret how much school I ditched when I was younger. So I didn't get caught up in so much of the indoctrination either. But it's a sad state. And if this was a lightning round, I would almost welcome a stroke of lightning to maybe help bring me, shock my system to bring me back. Maybe I could be lucid too. Maybe I'm the insane one. Maybe we're the insane ones, Steve, and we need some shock therapy to, get us back into the program with the psych ward.
Maybe you're right. Or in the immortal words of Paul Simon, when I think back on all the crap I learned in high school,
it's a wonder I can think it all.
Right.
Just thinking, the second he said that, I was right with you, man. I was just like, the ray came down.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and wait, there's one more headline just for me. Pentagon spokesman on Americans left behind in Kabul says, we have Americans that get stranded in countries all the time. That's from Pentagon spokesman John Kirby. I could detail all the ways in which John Kirby is just a blissfully lying idiot, ignoramus. I don't know. I'm not even going to start. I'm just going to get myself too angry. Instead, I'll say this and get slightly less angry. All these excuse mongers for this disaster. I'm talking about Kirby. I'm talking about Jen Psaki. I'm talking about every spokesman in every department that has anything to do with this. Plus the guys who ordered it. I'm talking about people like President-ish Joe Biden. I'm talking about people like General Mark Milley. These guys all need a one-trip ticket to Kabul with the instructions, sorry you got stranded. Sure you can make your way home safe. See ya.
Epic.
Yeah. And that's your lightning round. So thank you so much, not just for filling in for Scott, but for playing along with our silliest episode that we do here. And thanks to everybody for watching. We'll see you next time.